Hey, I've used deepfake so much my head is spinning, but I still can't get the hang of it. The official site keeps blocking me, and it's driving me crazy. Local deployment is too complicated, and I want to add a local knowledge base. How are those charts made? I heard deepfake can even auto-edit photos. You can create Xiaohongshu-style posts with one click, and even make videos like this. This post will solve all of these problems. I've put together the most fundamental and comprehensive usage tips, a list of all kinds of free access channels, the simplest ways to deploy locally, as well as easy and practical advanced techniques, plus major productivity boosting scenarios and strategies. Once the official API is released, I'll keep updating with in-depth step-by-step tutorials on how to use the API together with other tools for even greater efficiency. I've already organized all the website links, prompt word installation packages, and the complete tutorial PDF mentioned in this video. You can get them all for free. Just bookmark, follow, and like this post to claim your deepfake gift pack. First of all, there are several ways to use it. Both the official website and the mobile app are available, and both offer the full-featured R1 version. However, due to deepfake's recent surge in popularity and subsequent attacks, if you enable online search, there's a high chance you'll encounter server overload. Even if you only enable deep search, issues can still arise. That said, the mobile app seems to have a slightly higher success rate. If you have the patience, the official website is definitely the best option. The second option is the silicon-based Flow website, which also offers the full-featured R1. You can call the API or chat directly. However, the downside is that the direct chat interface is basically a trial area. Your chat history won't be saved, and once you've used up the 14 WAN credit they give you, you'll need to top up. The third option is Meta Search, which has just launched the full-featured R1 as well. When you click on Long Thinking, that's R1. The advantage is that it's currently free, and it comes with its own search function, so it's very convenient for researching information and such. However, the downside is that it can't handle multi-turn conversations, and you can't turn off the online search, so it's still a rather pure AI search tool. The fourth option is Cursor. Based on my testing, the R1 inside Cursor should also be the full-featured version of R1. By clicking on Chat, you can use it as R1, but the downside is that only Cursor members can access it, and the free quota will probably run out very quickly. The fifth option is the official Grok website, which is free and also very fast. However, unfortunately, it is actually the open source version of Llama 70B, which means it's Llama trained on R1's reasoning model, so its Chinese language capabilities are much weaker. For example, I'll test it by asking it to write an article about the deepfake craze in the style of Lu Xun. As you can see from the results, the full-powered version is the real Lu Xun, while this one is just ordinary and overly formal. In addition, the National Supercomputing Center also provides a free online experience of the open-source R1 version. The sixth method is local deployment. However, given the limitations of our computers, local deployments are definitely all other architecture open source models, and all under 32B. These are suitable for those who prioritize quantity over quality, or for people who want to avoid certain restrictions when chatting. I've also selected the two quickest ways to do this. The first is the GPT-4all open source project. With this, we don't need to open the command line. Just go to the official website to download GPT-4all, install it, and then open it. In the Find Model section, click on Reasoning, and inside you'll find various open-source R1 versions. The advantage is that it also labels the appropriate VRAM size for each model. For example, if I have 16GB, I'll just download this 14B Qianwen model. Then just open the chat and you can start a conversation directly. However, its downside is a decrease in capability. For example, if we use the Lu Xun test again, you'll see that its results can't compare to R1's answers. The base model's abilities aren't great, but when it comes to reasoning, it still inherits R1's strengths fairly well. The other option is the classic Ollama. After downloading Ollama from the official website, we open the command line and run Ollama run deepfake R1, and it will automatically download the 7B Qianwen model. Many people are frustrated because Ollama downloads all the models to the C drive by default. If you want to change the drive and avoid using up space on the C drive, you just need to copy the Ollama model files from the user folder on the C drive to another drive. Then go to your computer's settings, open the environment variables, and add a system variable called Ollama models. For the value, just enter the new location where you moved the files. However, after downloading Ollama, chatting through the command line is still quite difficult for most people, so you'll need to download a chat UI interface. For convenience, you can simply go to the Chrome extension store and install an extension called Page Assist. Once it's installed, open the extension and it will automatically detect the Ollama instance you're running. Then, just select a model and you can start chatting. See? However, I recommend just downloading Anything LM directly, since it can answer questions based on your local knowledge base. As for how to use it, just go to the official Anything LM website, download and install it. Basically, keep all the default settings, open it, select your model, upload your documents, and that's it. For more detailed partitioning, you can re-watch the playback of this video. Of course, the downside of the local version is that it's all running at full capacity, but for full capacity APIs, there are options like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, or domestic providers like Alibaba Cloud, Tencent Cloud, Huawei Cloud, and Baidu. All the major cloud service platforms have also launched servers, allowing for one-click deployment. However, for many people, there may still be some obstacles. So once the official website's API is back online, I'll release more advanced usage tutorials with other tools. For example, letting it control your computer, connect to WeChat, integrate with VS Code, set up scheduled automation workflows, create web AI assistants, and so on. Make sure to follow for updates. Now let's move on to usage tips. I've summarized these 8 key tips. No matter how they're phrased across the internet, they all boil down to these 8. But actually, these 8 can be distilled into just one. Learn to use smart people. First, don't assign R1 to do things. Just make the goal clear. When dealing with a smart person, most of the time you don't need to teach them how to do something. Just define the goal clearly, and that's enough. This is also the logic behind the invention of OKR to leverage their initiative. In the past, when we interacted with ordinary models like GPT-4 or Dubao, traditional instruction-based models would respond immediately to whatever you asked. It's not used to thinking, so we would send it those long, structured prompt words. However, if you send this kind of prompt directly to R1, the effect is just so-so. For example, the step-by-step instructions end up being too rigid and restrictive. That's because R1 is a reasoning model. It's very smart and good at thinking things through. No matter what you ask, it will always consider it carefully beforehand. For instance, even if we just ask it to generate a random number. If you ask it for a random number between 1 and 10, it'll think about it for a long time, pondering over what exactly a random number is, almost to the point of overthinking. So we don't need to specify a chain of thought for R1 like we used to, telling DeepSeek what to think first and what to think next. In most cases, we also don't need to require it to answer using any particular framework. The ways of thinking that ordinary people know are definitely fewer than what R1 is capable of. It's better to let it figure things out on its own. You just need to clearly define your goal. For example, you can say, I want to understand what a neural network is, but I only have an elementary school education. Here, it performs better than the explanation master. Second, this smart assistant tends to give a complete solution as soon as you ask. If you don't give background, it won't ask for more details. It just answers from its experience. So by giving background, you get a more complete solution. For example, you could say, a 32-year-old full-time mother with a 2-year-old in daycare has a TEM8 English certificate but hasn't used English for 5 years. She has 3 hours of fragmented time each day and so on, and she refuses to do micro business or direct sales, etc. All these detailed descriptions about your own situation form the basic background. These are things you'd need to clarify when consulting any human as well. You can see that in its response, it takes all these factors into account, including the last part about starting a parenting and English-related social media account. There's also this Chinese and foreign moms language exchange group, which actually sounds pretty reliable. So these 2 points are the most fundamental and basic principles when using DeepSeek. However, the following 5 tips aren't things you have to use every time, but whenever you do, they'll surprise you. Third, smart people not only give good answers, but the questions they ask are also excellent. So we can make use of R1 to ask us questions in return, helping us think, or even have R1 ask us some fundamental questions before we come up with our own. For example, I'm a civil servant who took the exam for 3 years and just passed last year. However, I can't adapt to the boring atmosphere of the government workplace, and I don't want to socialize either. Now I'm 30 years old and I want to resign and replan my life. Please ask me some questions to guide me in reflecting on and planning my life. Look at the questions it asks. What are the moments at work you resist the most and enjoy the most? What's the worst case scenario you can imagine? Have you ever had in-depth conversations with people working outside the system? And so on. These are actually all things you probably haven't thought through yet. Fourth, you can make this smart person's style more versatile. For example, we can have them write a live stream sales pitch in the style of Guo de Gang. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you finally made it. This is exactly the vibe. Now, if this style is based on a celebrity, we should try not to describe the style ourselves, like calling it humorous or gentle. Don't put too much faith in your own vocabulary. Just find a reference point to match. Things like Bilibili bullet comments, Baidu Tiba, or street stall novels all count as styles. Using them as references helps the AI understand your intended style better than describing it yourself. If your style doesn't have a representative figure, you can also give examples as references. Fifth, you can have the assistant tailor its language to the audience. Specify the target audience's knowledge level. For example, say I'm a college graduate, and this time the mayor is coming to meet me to learn about our school's technological and educational standards. Please give me some viewpoints that will make me appear to have great political vision and technological insight in front of the mayor. The goal is to make the mayor see me as a very promising candidate to succeed as the Minister of Technology. When you set the target knowledge level as that of a mayor, you'll see the AI's response, talking about national priorities, the 4 key areas, being both a vanguard and a successor. The scope immediately broadens. Or, say I need to write an email to the owner of a wholesale market. But in reality, I only want to buy 3 pieces of clothing, and usually the minimum order is 20. Please help me write it in a way that makes me come across as a very experienced and savvy wholesaler, and also persuades the owner to agree to sell to me. Here you see, it's about combining the purpose, the background, and the audience. If you look at the AI's chain of thought, it even considers having you pretend that you have other suppliers, subtly implying that you have plenty of options. He's strategic about it. For example, later on, he mentions things like small batch testing of styles and Thursday warehouse arrivals, using industry jargon while also implying that you have your own warehouse. See, by setting the right knowledge context, you can convincingly play any role, from a 5-year-old child to a city mayor. Sixth, let this smart person borrow the thinking of industry leaders, and their intelligence will double. For example, in our PPT, we can bring in Lei Jun. If you were Lei Jun, how would you evaluate my proposal? Or, say I'm a small business owner making phone cases, and I'm considering moving from Hangzhou to Shenzhen to expand. Let's have Step 6 play the roles of Elon Musk and Zhang Yiming to debate and discuss this decision. Now, let's look at the debate he presents. Here, Musk supports moving to Shenzhen based on the city's ecosystem and marginal cost advantages, while Zhang Yiming analyzes your order sources from a data perspective. He says Hangzhou has live streaming e-commerce talent to support you staying in Hangzhou. Musk counters that in Hangzhou you need suppliers from 3 provinces, but in Shenzhen you just go downstairs and have everything you need. Zhang Yiming rebuts that the real moat isn't speed, but the user's mindset, and even asks you to create a multi-dimensional spreadsheet function to calculate it. What? Shenzhen surpasses Hangzhou, and 15% are taking action. This is really good, really dialectical. Sixth, actually, smart people are all good at dialectical thinking and have critical thinking skills, so we can also use R1 to force ourselves to consider both sides of an issue. For example, before we make a decision, we can first let DeepSeek pick out all the flaws as a buffer. After seeing his criticism, if you still want to go ahead, then go for it. For instance, let me give you a more radical example. I've fallen in love with a flight attendant. After much thought, I decide to pursue true love, leave everything behind, and divorce my wife. What do you think of this decision? Use critical thinking. Don't hold back, be sharp. Look at how he describes it. A dopamine explosion, mistaking professional fake smiles for a soulful connection, and treating leaving with nothing as a moral get-out-of-jail-free card. Being moved by yourself is a fatal flaw in logic. In the end, he even asks you to imagine if the plane crashes, who would you really want to call? That's definitely sharp. Of course, you can also have him apply dialectical thinking to his own suggestions. For example, what do you think about De Chang quitting his job to become a travel blogger? Then ask him to approach it with critical and dialectical thinking. He came up with a whole lot. See, not only did he lay out all these very real risks, but he also showed understanding for the pain you feel when you really don't want to go to work. In the end, he even offered a transitional plan and suggestions for dealing with these risks, which is truly impressive. Now, for the 7th point, since he's a smart person, he often comes up with insights you wouldn't expect, so we can boldly try asking open-ended questions to explore deeper and more fundamental issues, such as your life plans. You don't have to rush and ask him to come up with a career plan right away. Instead, you can first talk with him about things like, what's your perspective on the life of a 28-year-old graduate from a second-tier Chinese university? Or before making a career plan, what questions do you think one should ask themselves? Or what does it mean to choose a city to settle down in? These kinds of open-ended questions. For example, he might tell you that choosing a city is actually about prioritizing your values. Do you care more about your career, or do you long for a more relaxed lifestyle? And what does it mean to be deeply tied to a city? It means you're betting on this city's development for the next 20 years. And it even involves detailed aspects like the local social support system. Because many times, before we even start looking for solutions, there are already a lot of questions we haven't thought through clearly. And DeepSeek can provide you with some thought-provoking, big-picture perspectives. In addition to the techniques and examples mentioned above, there are also many scenarios where this can be applied. Based on my experience using AI over the past few years, I've summarized several common scenarios to inspire everyone. First of all, for everyday questions and problem solving, such as various questions that come up during learning, you can ask it. Configuring a computer, or for those looking for jobs, you can even send it real interview questions. It's especially useful. Second, for information gathering and summarization, such as analyzing an industry, interpreting an event, or compiling materials, it's also very skilled at these tasks. Third, for planning and analysis, like writing weekly reports, creating PPTs, drafting proposals, or contracts. Fourth, for writing, whether it's scripts for live broadcasts, outlines for articles, emails, copywriting, and so on. Fifth, entertainment. For example, many people use it for fortune telling or astrology, and of course some simply chat with R1 for fun. In the materials, there's also a jailbreak prompt for DeepSeek, but since it's a bit too extreme, it's not suitable to show it in the video. Of course, there are many other prompts in the materials that I haven't gone into detail about. I hope you'll refer to them after you get them, and make full use of AI. Treat it as a smart friend who's knowledgeable in various fields and experienced in different industries, and develop the habit of using AI as your external brain. In addition to the text-based interaction techniques I mentioned earlier, DeepSeek also offers a variety of creative uses. I've picked out a few that are currently popular, practical, and very easy to use. First, create news daily graphic posts for Xiaohongshu. Just tell it, help organize the 10 most popular recent AI news stories online, then use HTML to turn these news items into a daily report, formatted in a style suitable for Xiaohongshu graphic posts. Remember to enable web search, and it will directly generate the code in a code block for you. Then, for the final step, we click Run HTML below, take a screenshot, and that's your graphic post. This approach combines its abilities to search the web, write code, and summarize and organize information. Second, have it help us write scripts to automatically edit images. For example, if we want to adjust this picture to a fresh and light tone, we can tell DS to write a script for PS 2021. Here you need to specify the version number of Photoshop clearly, otherwise it's likely to cause bugs. Then, have it adjust the image to a fresh and light tone and add a Autumn 2046 watermark in the center. The script will be generated for you. First, we click the copy button above. Then follow the instructions to create a new notepad file, paste the script we just copied into it, and save it as a file with a .jsx extension. Next, open Photoshop, open this image, then go to File, select the bottom option Scripts, browse for and run the script file we just saved. See, it works perfectly. It can also write scripts for various other software like Premiere, After Effects, and so on. Whether you need it to generate a batch rendering script or a script to modify template effects, it can handle all of that. Third, generating charts. This is extremely practical. For example, commonly used charts in development and design like mermaid diagrams or latex, which is often used by students and researchers for writing papers, can all be created using DeepSeek. We can simply give it a lengthy article, and it will organize the information into a chart for you, or you can directly tell it, for example, use mermaid to create a comprehensive diagram outlining the AI decision-making mechanisms in autonomous driving systems. See, it generates the whole thing right away. Then, just copy the code it provides and paste it into any mermaid editor like one you find online, and that's it. Other similar charting tools like Excel, UML, Markdown, and basic tables can all be generated by it as well. Fourth, assisting AI in video creation. Shot descriptions are a hassle for many people, but DeepSeek can not only describe standard shots, it can also create these kinds of continuously transitioning 5-frame flow videos, which are really impressive. Coming up with this ourselves would be quite mentally taxing, so we can just tell DeepSeek what the 5-frame method is, then roughly describe the style and content we want for the visuals, and have it generate 10 sets of video prompts for us directly. After that, we can just pick any one of them to try out. This is the result. There are actually many more ways to play around with this. These representative examples are just to help spark some ideas for you. Later on, I'll share some production-level use cases as well. For instance, Codaisy has recently integrated DeepSeek v3, which will greatly enhance the effectiveness of automated workflows. Alright, let's make the most of this gift of our times. Once you've gotten the hang of it, we'll keep leveling up together. Remember to like, save, and follow, or you might miss out. See you next time.